Prendre la parole sur la Shoah est toujours difficile.
Taking the floor over the Shoah issue is always very difficult, if not impossible. As Primo Levi wrote in 1947, our language just lacks the words necessary to express the destruction of man. After the war, words were so lacking that new words needed to be made up. Crime against humanity, genocide, Shoah, extermination camps, negationism, or Sonderkommando. Everything has been said about Auschwitz and the Shoah. A permanent scar of the history of humanity, a crisis of human being, a questioning of what human being is. But still we have to constantly repeat to new generations, we have to remind them of this common heritage in order to strengthen the basis of our democracy and prevent for such a terrible event to occur again. What this international seminar taking place in Brussels over the next 3 days is a crucial initiative for the memory of the 6 million people, men, women and children that were assassinated by the Nazi regime just for being Jewish or Roma, but also for the Sonderkommando, these slaves of death who, for most of them, disappeared in Birkenau through the irregular extermination initiatives organized by their enemies to make sure this testimony would disappear. This is why the seminar is part of the duty of memory. As Wiesel said, forgetting would be the highest injustice, as Auschwitz was the absolute crime. Forgetting would be letting the enemy win over. The first time he kills, the second time he kills again by getting rid of the traces of what he's done. Only a few of these people, the Sonderkommando, have survived the regime, and a number of them have been silenced. Some of them, for some of them, it was very difficult to start talking, not because they didn't want to testify, but because they couldn't be heard. They were not heard. As one of them says, what we had, this burden, wasn't shared by anyone. No one wanted to hear it, and this is such an unbelievable event that people didn't want to believe it could have happened. But Shlomo Velitza recently said, if testifying is a huge sacrifice and revives this permanent suffering that never leaves your body, it's because it couldn't exist. It is so impossible to imagine that those who can tell the story have to do it. For us in the Sonderkommando, we had easier surviving conditions. We were a bit less cold, we had a bit more to eat, there was less violence, but we saw the worst. We were there all day, we were at the heart of hell. This is why I will take this opportunity to remind you of the contribution of these men of Sonderkommando and their testimony in this struggle to make it exist, to reveal it, and some of them paid it with their lives. Zalman Kratovsky, for example, Shelman Herman, have done their best to write manuscripts at the heart of this hell in order to write what happened to the Jews that were exterminated in Auschwitz-Birkenau. And after the war, they told the story. This was absolutely terrible for them to do it, but they had to do it. And if the voices of most of the survivors can no longer be heard, their testimonies remain. And it's now for the historians and all the other actors of memory to take over this burden. So what we will do over the next 3 days also has to lead us to reflecting on our present in our future. There is a polarization in Europe, there is an increase of anti-Semitism and new forms of racism. This is why the history of the Shoah has to enable us to reflect on human dignity, but also on the future of our European continent. The reconciliation work started in the wake of the Second World War in a pacified Europe has to be strengthened and continued. continued. Because, as Simone Weil said, this work still needs to be done. It's not over. Something can always happen. This is what is seen every day. The hatred for the other starts in everyday life. A tweet, an anonymous comment left on a forum or published on an internet website shows evil is always close and can take several different forms. This is why, as a Minister for Equal Opportunities, Joëlle Milquet set up a number of initiatives, for example, the cell for anti-Semitism that is made up of high-level executives from the police, from justice, from the Department for Equal Opportunities and Against Racism, as well as representatives of the Jewish community, in order to ensure the exchange of information, the prevention, the hearing of complaints, and the necessary legal procedures. This is a crucial fight for the Belgian state. I will conclude this intervention by quoting again Primo Levi. His preface of If It's a Man is still a permanent source of reflection. Many amongst ourselves are sometimes hanging to this idea that the foreigner is the enemy. It seems to be part of minds. It's like an infection, a sleeping infection that doesn't make a system, but once all these ideas create a system, once this dogma is considered as the main principle of a system, well, at the end, there is the result, the extreme consequence created with thoroughness. As long as this principle survives, we are threatened by history. And this is why concentration camps should be heard as an alarm bell. Thank you for your attention and wish you, with all sincerity, a very fruitful work.